we think pesticides are okay as they are. I think it's better to move forward in technology, and that is actually a less complacent view of the world. And as for policies based on pessimism, here's one based on climate pessimism. We're taking 5% of the world maize crop and turning it into ethanol in order to fill our cars with ethanol. And that's had the effect of reducing, displacing about 0.6% of world fuel. So even if we took half the maize crop and turned it into ethanol, we'd still only displace 6% of world oil use. And we're doing it at the expense of increasing world food prices and therefore making hunger worse in countries. I simply don't see that the pessimism that drives this policy is justified. In fact, I think that the story of history and humanity says that we do actually do more for less. That if we have higher farm yields, it means we destroy less rainforest because we don't need so much land. If we have new technology, we actually use less resources. We actually become more efficient in the way our technology works. If we use gas and nuclear power and things like that, then we won't need to sacrifice the landscape to renewable energy. If we make more wealth, then we will have less environmental loss. There's a thing called the environmental Kuznets curve, which predicts the level of income at which countries start to care about the environment. And above that level of income, they start to do dramatic things like reforesting and demanding clean air laws and things like that. Countries like China are reaching that point at the moment. And here we are doing more for less, producing more prosperity for less energy progressively every year, not just in the Western world, but in China and in Russia and in India as well. Well, this is the nightmare that we often hear, expressed in this case by Ban Ki-moon, that the world's current economic model is an environmental global suicide pact that will result in disaster if it isn't reformed, that we need a revolution on how to make it more sustainable. And here's the opposite view, that if we had a strong commitment to market-based solutions, international mobility of people, ideas and technology, the global economy expanding at an average rate of 3%, so that global average income reached $21,000 by 1950 in today's dollars, that there would be great improvement in overall health and social conditions of the majority of people, energy and mineral resources would be abundant because of rapid technological progress, which both reduce the resources needed to produce a given level of output and increases the economically recoverable reserves, resulting in rapid technological progress, which would free natural resources currently devoted to the provision of human needs for other purposes, increasing ecologic resistance. But these aren't my words. These are words that come from a document put out by Ban Ki-moon's own organization, the United Nations, to describe one of the economic scenarios used in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, projections of what's going to happen in the future. This is the high growth model. This is how they describe it. And I think they may have a point here, that actually the richer we get, the more we can cope with environmental problems. Sustainability, after all, is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I'm not convinced, much as I love local production, self-sufficiency, low technology, low growth, organic farming and renewable energy, I'm perfectly happy with these things in my own life, but I'm not convinced that they are going to be as good for the world as trade, specialization, high technology, high growth, intensive farming, and lots of natural gas. That in fact, the old Paul Ehrlich idea that the impact of human beings on the planet is proportional to population times affluence times technology, I think is wrong. I think the evidence suggests that it's more like this, that the impact is indeed proportional to population, but that divided by affluence and technology. That the richer and more technological we get, the less our impact on the planet. Well, let me end with this quotation. We cannot absolutely prove that those are in error who say society has reached a turning point, that we have seen our best days. But so said all who came before us, and with just as much apparent reason. On what principle is it that with nothing but improvement behind us, we are to expect nothing but deterioration before us? Well, that wasn't said by me or someone like me recently. That was said by Thomas Babington Macaulay, the historian, in 1830. This was just before living standards of working people in Britain began their extraordinary historic rise for the first time as a result of the Industrial Revolution. This was before Britain even started really getting rich. And yet he was already fed up with pessimists saying it cannot get better than this, with pessimists essentially being complacent. So I think in going from the self-sufficiency of the Australian hand axe to the networked brain of the computer app, we have actually given ourselves an extraordinarily bright future. Thank you very much.